her 80s when she got married, or late
Well,
70s.
she's 92. So is that
Going to need a quorum.
Do we have the bare minimum?
Here we go. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Baum, Camper, Freeman, Gant, Hawk, Hazelwood, Lynn, Ogles, Todd, Whitson, Williams, Wendell, Chairman Hicks.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to call the Finance, Ways and Means Subcommittee to order for April the 26th, 2022. Are there any announcements or personal orders before we begin? Seeing none, we have various calendars before us today, and we will begin with the regular calendar 1, followed by the special calendar, and lastly, the behind the budget calendar. And I know some folks have asked about if they have bills across multiple calendars, can we kind of take those out of order? We will not be able to do that and keep it organized. So that is just too much. So I apologize. If you've got a bill across the calendars, then we'll just have to call you up. If you have multiple on the same calendar, we can take care of you. But if you've got them across the board, we will not be able to do that and kind of stay organized with where we're at. So I do apologize for that. All right. With that said, we're going to begin. Again, we're going to start with the regular calendar 1, and that will be item number 1 on our calendar. It's going to be House Bill 325 by Chairman Curcio. You have a motion to second. You're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill simply creates a temporary task force to provide the General Assembly with recommendations on how to properly structure the electronic monitoring and indigency fund.
All right. Thank you very much, members. You've heard the description and discussion on House Bill 325. Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Chairman. To the sponsor, there's new technology in this monitoring. Does that take into account that? I know there's some we're testing for not just alcohol, but drugs. And this issue came up in my district recently. And can you speak on that for just a second, please, sir?
Chairman Curcio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Absolutely. That's exactly why this is needed. So we've got Ignition Interlock, which is a legacy technology, has a very specific purpose that safety needs. Right now, the Ignition Interlock and all of these other technologies, which, as you accurately described, they're coming out with new ones every single day, are all lumped together as similar technologies. That is inappropriate. They need to be bifurcated. So what we hope is that the Ignition Interlock will be its own standalone self-completing fund. All other technologies will go under this electronic monitoring indigency fund. And in a perfect world, and what I hope this task force will look at is that they really need to be agnostic as to technology. And they need to be talking about how these things are funded. Can they meet a minimum standard and do the job?
Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Chairman. And to the sponsor, I appreciate you doing this, and members of this committee. I had a family in my district that was destroyed because the person was granted to drive again. They were on a device that was actually testing for alcohol, and they had heroin dependency. And, you know, the device didn't pick that up, and they were allowed to drive again, and they literally killed a family. And it was tragic. So I thank you for bringing this legislation. We definitely need to look at this new technology, and appreciate you doing this.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Further discussion. House Bill 325. Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 325, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 325 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman of Committee.
Thank you, Chairman. That brings us to item number 2. Item number 2 on our calendar is House Bill 2392 by Chair Lady Moody. You have a motion second to recognize for a brief description.
Thank you very much. Members, this is will take care, if you pass this, for Graceland, their tourist development zone. And with COVID hitting, they were very much dependent on in-person sales tax. And of course, that took them down quite a bit. So what this bill will do is reset the base to pre-Wayfair. And that's basically all it does.
All right, members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2392. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2392, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2392 moves to full finance.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item number 4 on our calendar. Item number 4 is going to be House Bill 846 by Representative Sherrill. You have a motion to second. You're recognized for a brief description. It looks like there is an amendment that has been filed, and I'll verify that. That is going to be 016797. Is that correct? Okay, we have a motion and a second. You're recognized on the amendment.
6 with amendment you just spoke of, 016797 makes the bill. And in this situation, the teachers in the prison system that work for the Department of Corrections have a very difficult job. They are essentially teaching in a reform school every day, 12 months out of the year. Right now, the teachers in the correctional system are paid based on a geographical local in which the prison sits. So a teacher at Bledsoe County Correctional Complex is paid based on the Department of Education scale for Bledsoe County and is immediately surrounding counties. This is one of the last, if not the last, state level job class in which the pay is geographically based rather than being based on the job itself. The amendment does one key thing. It decouples the current statutory geographical restrictions for a correctional teacher pay scale so that we can move towards the statewide job class. There is $1,400,000 in the governor's FY 22-23 budget for the change, and that will provide a 12% increase in the affected job class. So this is an initial important for our constituents, but also for correctional teachers across the state. So I ask that a favorable consideration in this bill.
All right, thank you, Representative Sherrill. Members, you've heard the description of the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on Amendment 016797 to House Bill 846. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended, and I think you have already described the bill.
Yes, sir.
Members, in discussion on House Bill 846. Seeing none, hearing none, we're now voting on House Bill 846, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 846 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman and members.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 5. Item number 5 on our calendar is House Bill 630 by Representative Gillespie. You have a motion to second. You're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. What this bill does is it just aligns the Vulnerable Adult Protective Investigative Team report with the Child Protective Investigation Team report and creates a registry for adult homes that vulnerable adults live on. And with that, I welcome any questions.
All right. Thank you, Representative Gillespie, for this description. Members, any discussion on House Bill 630? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 630, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 630 moves to full finance. Thank you. Brings us to item number 6 on our calendar, also by Representative Gillespie. It's going to be House Bill 2009. We have a motion second. You have a motion second. You're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and committee. What this does is if you're convicted of aggravated assault and that aggravated assault took place in a motor vehicle while firing it with a firearm, it just requires that the sentence be upgraded 1 level.
All right, members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2009. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2009, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2009 moves to full finance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, members, that brings us to item number 7 on our calendar. Item number 7 is House Bill 1927 by Leader Lambert. You have a motion to second. You are recognized on House Bill 1927. It looks like, Leader, there is an amendment drafting code 018190. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, Mr.
We
Chairman.
have a motion second on the amendment. You have a motion to second. You're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this bill brings in approximately $10 million per year in additional tax revenue. And this amendment would defray any fiscal note that would have existed by allocating a portion of that from the hemp fund over to the general fund.
All right, members, you've heard the description of the amendment. Again, this is Amendment 018190. Any discussion? Question's been called. Objection calling the question. Hearing none, seeing none. We're now voting on the amendment to House Bill 1927. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended, and you are recognized, Leader, on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I stand ready for questions.
All right, members, you've heard the description. Any discussion on House Bill 1927? Leader Camper.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sponsor, you said we're moving a percentage of the revenue into a new account, a new reserve account, or could you explain that again? What you talked about
Leader Lambert.
in the percentage amount?
Again, it's only a new amendment coded 18190, and it moves 2% over to the general fund to defray any expenses that would have been associated with this regulatory framework.
Leader
And-
Camper.
And could you go over the regulatory framework you're making reference to? And do you have any, let me see how much that would be. Could you go over the framework while I look up the fiscal note on that? Thank you.
Leader Lambert.
And I'm sorry, just to understand, you want the framework of the entire bill? It's a very lengthy bill, or are you just looking for the specific fiscal aspects of it?
Well, yeah, you said that the 2% that's going over is to defray the cost of setting up the framework for what we're trying to do. So you understand the point.
Leader Lambert.
So the bill as amended that came out of the Criminal Justice Committee brings in approximately $10.275 million per year into a regulatory fund for these products. And so we're taking 2% of that, put it into the base budget, or excuse me, putting it into defray anything that would have been associated with the cost of this bill. Thus, it creates where there's no cost to this, it actually brings in revenue.
Leader Camper.
And so, Mr. Sponsor, if the amount that you're saying we're going to move is being put in place to ensure that if there are any costs, there will be funds available to cover it. And if it's not, do the funds revert back or do they just accumulate over the years? What happens to the funds if the funds are not expended? Are they set in a separate reserve account? What happens with those funds?
Leader Lambert.
So they would, like any other unspent funds by any department, they would go into the base budget for next year for us to allocate however we see fit.
Leader Camper.
Do you plan to have a sunset on this or review it after a while if we see that we're not, we're not using it for its intended purpose and we're just putting more money in the, general fund? Do you see us putting it back to where, the original reason we had? Okay. Mhm.
Leader Lambert.
Certainly, Madam Leader. I mean, that's what we do every single year. In fact, there's a stack of paperwork about that tall on my desk, and I'm sure on the chairman's desk as well, where we look at all those reserve funds. We look at all the funds that have come in and right size them every year. We did that into several, quite frankly, this year, and we do that every single year to make sure that if any fund is bringing in more than is necessary to actually complete their mission, then we revert that over to either the general fund or do away, quite frankly, with that fund or fees.
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Sponsor.
Thank you. Further discussion. Chairman Wendell.
First of all, thank you for bringing the bill. It's a positive step. I just have one question. Does this provide a matrix or a template for the taxation or regulation of, for example, medical marijuana? If we move forward, can the state use this format or this particular engine to provide a method to tax and or regulate medical marijuana if the General Assembly chose to legalize that in the next 12 months?
Leader Lambert.
And no, sir, it does not. This deals with products that are unfortunately currently legal but completely unregulated, that by and large are utilized for recreational purposes. And currently a 7-year-old could walk into a gas station and buy a THC product that is extremely high in THC that was derived from hemp. And because of bills that we have passed in previous years, that 7-year-old could get, quite frankly, higher than a kite on that product, and there's not a thing in the law right now to prevent it. So this puts a regulatory framework in place to make sure that no one is purchasing these products that is under 21, to make sure that they are tested, they are regulated, they are packaged properly, they are not marketed to children. This creates a framework that is similar to the way we treat tobacco or alcohol, but not the way that we treat medicine. Medicine should be virtually no tax, if any tax at all, should go through the medical system and go through doctors and patients making that decision on their own between the two of them. And so this is not a framework that would mirror any type of medical program. It mirrors more the way we treat tobacco and alcohol.
And thank you very much. But Mr. Sponsor and also members of the committee, I have thousands of constituents who are concerned and are interested, of course, in either growing marijuana or being in the production or retail of marijuana. And I received multiple questions about this. And many of my constituents thought that this might be a vehicle or an avenue for an easy transition into medical marijuana sales. But I appreciate you clearing that up. Thank you.
Further discussion, House Bill 1927. Representative Ogles.
Thank you to the sponsor. Thank you, Chairman. Does this have what type, can you explain the enforcement capacity with this legislation as far as who's going to regulate, who's enforcing, penalties, fines? What are we doing when people are violating this new law? What's the recourse does the state and our municipalities have?
Leader Lambert.
Thank you. And on the amendment coded 17556, which came through the Criminal Justice Committee, under 4327-206, which is page 4 on the bill, it indicates that the Department of Agriculture is going to be the regulatory body that they currently regulate hemp, and they would be regulating these hemp-derived products. And then for those that are committing crimes under this bill, obviously it would be local law enforcement and state law enforcement officials that would be able to enforce those laws in conjunction with the district attorney's office and the court system.
Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Chairman. So what will the crime be? So the vendors right now down on Broadway that have the carts and are selling things out of plastic baggies that are not marked, and they're just handing you whatever you give them, what crime are they actually going to be committing?
Leader Lambert.
In many instances, they would be committing misdemeanors just as they are now. Many of those are going unprosecuted, but for a lot of those products, they fall over into the actual marijuana definition, and they're committing crimes currently that are both misdemeanors and felonies. So it would be a really wide range of offenses that if someone is selling any illegal product, that they would potentially fall under.
Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Chairman. And to the sponsor, is that dependent on local jurisdictions? For instance, does Metro Nashville have to enforce that, or does that come under any of the authority of the TBI or the Attorney General? Is there any crossover between those different agencies?
Leader Lambert.
Again, the regulatory framework of those that are licensed individuals that are selling these now legal products, they would be regulated under the Department of Ag. And so there are both penalties civilly and criminally that can be associated with that if you have a licensed retailer or someone who is unlicensed that is selling these products. There's no decision by the local government officials to be made here, other than the fact that a district attorney constitutionally does have the authority to decide not to bring not to prosecute certain individuals. I've always said that I think the Constitution intends for that to be a person-to-person basis, but obviously we do have a couple of district attorneys throughout the state that have decided to make a plenary decision that they won't prosecute entire sections of the code. I disagree with that decision, but that may be what you're asking about. But other than a district attorney's decision as to whether or not to prosecute each individual case, there's nothing else for the locals to decide.
Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Chairman. And specifically, my worry is that we've tasked the Department of Agriculture to do something that's in fact law enforcement, and they may not have either have the capacity or the staffing to carry out our legislative intent. So that's my only concern. I appreciate your bill and wholeheartedly support what you're doing. It's just whether an actual application, if we're going to have the enforcement mechanism that we desire with this legislation. But thank you, sponsor.
Leader Lambert.
Yeah, we had those same conversations with the Department of Ag. They've assured me, especially with, the several $1 million that are coming into this department, for them to be able to give this up by January 1st. Some aspects of this go into effect July 1st, some January 1st, that they will be ready. And in fact, they do inspections statewide on many other retail establishments and products.
Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Chairman. That was the answer I was hoping you had. Thank you.
All right, further discussion on House Bill 1927. Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1927, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1927 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Members, give us just a second. All right, members, anything not taken up on regular calendar 1 will be taken off notice without objection. Off notice. All right, that completes regular calendar 1. That brings us to the special calendar. All right, members, item number 1 on today's special calendar is going to be it's just a second here to get everything in order, and we'll proceed. It's all right. Okay. All right, members, we're going to take up item number 2 on our calendar. It's going to be House Bill 1416 by Chairman Curcio. You have a motion to second. You're recognized for a brief description. And it looks like, sir, there is an amendment that has been filed, and that drafting code is 018004. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. I wish to move that amendment.
All right, we have a motion to second. We have a motion to second. You're recognized for a description on the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and let me get that description for you. This is similar to
Chairman, this rewrites the bill. You want to go ahead and get this put on, and then that way you can just describe
sir.
it. So
Thank you.
members, any discussion on the amendments? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on amendment drafting code 018004 House Bill 1416. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended, and now you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill deals with aggravated human trafficking. It creates a Class A felony penalty for all human trafficking offenses committed against a minor under the age of 13, not just trafficking for a commercial sex act. And it also clarifies the Class A felony penalties for human trafficking offenses committed against minors created by the governor's bill apply only to offenses committed against minors more than 12, but less than 18 years of age. And then it adds both patronizing and promoting the prostitution of a minor to the list of offenses considered to be human trafficking offenses.
All right, thank you very much. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1416. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Question's been called on the bill. The question has already been called. Madam Chair, do you want to withdraw your objection? Okay, objection's been called. Objection called on the question. Hearing none, seeing none. We're going to be voting on House Bill 1416. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1416 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
All right, that brings us to item number 3 on our calendar. Item number 3 is going to be House Bill 1405 by Chairman Halford. You have a motion and a second, and we do, Mr. Chairman, you again have a motion to second, but it looks like we have an untimely filed. So without objection, we will consider an untimely filed amendment. So without objection, seeing none, so moved. We are on drafting code 017696. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. You're recognized on the amendment, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as amended, House Bill 1405 will modernize the agricultural sales exemption law so that it's simple for the farmer, the retailer, and the Department of Revenue to use and to understand. As amended with agricultural exemption certificate, commonly referred to as a card, we will not have to pay sales tax on any tangible personal property, including building material, repair service, labor, warranty, software, any other item which is used for production in agriculture. And I might mention that it goes on to say under current law, this does not include automobiles, truck, household appliances, gasoline, diesel, and items like that. Those will still continue to be taxed as they always have been. I renew my motion.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Members, you've heard the description of the amendment. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're now voting on Amendment 017696 to House Bill 1405. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended. Question has been called on the bill. Objection called on the question. Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1405 to House Bill 1405 to full finance. Yeah, that's good. We did vote, so we're good. I just need to drop the gavel. Correct. We just put the amendment on. And then question was called. I got you. That's okay. All right. We're going to slow down to make sure we get this right, so I apologize. Okay, we are now voting on House Bill 1405, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1405 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
That's all right. All right, item number 12 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 1188 by Representative Garrett. You have a motion and a second, and you are recognized, sir. And it looks like you have an amendment. Okay, the amendment has already been drafted, so you are adopted, so you are ready to go in the proper posture. You're
Thank you,
recognized
Mr.
for
Chairman and
description.
committee. This is a bill that will make the interlock device and the transdermal device part of bond. Right now, you will not be issued that particular device until you are convicted. This makes it part of bond in an egregious type situation. Either you've got a minor in your car or you've already got a vehicular homicide, et cetera. So it's an enhanced DUI, so to speak, that this will become a condition of bond. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions the committee has.
All right, thank you very much, Representative Garrett. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1188. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1188. Moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1188 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
All righty. Any bills not taken up on this calendar will be referred back to the clerk's desk. So without objection, the remaining bills on this calendar are referred back to the clerk's desk. Without objection, so moved. All right, that completes the special calendar. So next we will take up the behind the budget calendar. And give us just a second before we begin. Members, bear with us. We're going to take a 5-minute recess just to make sure as we transition from the past calendars we just passed as we go into the behind the budget. So we'll take a 5-minute. We'll try to make it a hard 5 minutes, not a usual 5 minutes, which is usually 15 minutes. So without objection, we're going to go to recess. All right, we are back from recess, and we're going to begin with the Behind the Budget calendar. Thank you for your patience. In the words of former Rep. Bill Dunn, sometimes the slower we go, the faster we get there. So bear with us today. We're going to begin with item number 1 on our calendar. It's going to be House Bill 2663 by Chairman Farmer. You have a motion to second. You're recognized, sir, for a brief description on House Bill 2663.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee. Do I need to adopt an amendment, or is the amendment traveling with this?
It is traveling.
It is. Very good. And members, what this is the Mental Health Treatment Act of 2022. And I have the honor of carrying this for speaker section. It's going to help a lot of folks that came home from fighting for our countries with mental health disorders in our courts. All these folks just need a little help and need some additional treatment and some psychiatric services, and this is what this is going to do. So I'll just move passage.
All right. Thank you very much, Chairman Farmer. You've heard the description and discussion on House Bill 2663. Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2663, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2663 moves to full finance. All right, that brings us, and hold still, Chairman Farmer, we're going to grab you on item number 18. That's going to be 2436. You have a motion to second. You are recognized, sir, for a brief description on House Bill 2436.
And thank you, Mr. Chair, members. And what this bill does, this allows for those children who graduate high school early as juniors to go ahead and take advantage of their Tennessee Promise scholarship money. Currently, there's no mechanism in the law to allow those who finish early and excel academically to go ahead and take advantage of those monies to move forward and start attending college. So what this do is just help those kids stay motivated to be educated. So I just ask for passage.
All right. Thank you very much, Chairman Farmer. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2436. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2436, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2436 moves to full finance.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us back to item number 2. Item number 2 is going to be House Bill 2666 by Representative Sexton. Is he in the room yet? There he is. You have a motion and a second. You are recognized, sir, on House Bill 2666 for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee. What this bill does is it addresses the education textbook and books in the library, and it adds 2 members. It adds 1 member from the Senate side, from the Lieutenant Governor, and then 1 from the House, and then 1 ex officio, which is a non-voting member, which is the state library. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
All right, members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2666. Any discussion? Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you reducing the size, increasing the size of this commission?
It increases it by 2 voting members, and it increases it by 3, 1 non-voting member. So a total of 3.
Okay.
Leader Camper.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion, House Bill 2666. Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2666, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2666 moves on to full finance.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item number 3. Item number 3 is going to be by Chairman Zachary. It's going to be House Bill 2668. We have a motion to second. You recognize for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this simply puts the commissioned officers with the TWRA and the TBI in line with the retirement benefits of the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Members, you've heard the description and discussion on House Bill 2668. Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2668, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2668 moves to full finance. That brings us, we're going to skip over to item number 35, where Chairman Zachary also has a bill. Give us just a second to get there. All right, item number 35, again, is House Bill 2676 by Chairman Zachary. You have a motion to second. You recognize for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. This simply provides for further transparency related to sole source contracts during emergency situations. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much for the description. Members, any discussion on House Bill 2676? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2676, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2676 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you. All right, that brings us back to item number 4. Item number 4 on our calendar is going to be by Chairman Sapicki. It's going to be House Bill 2661. You have a motion and a second. And it looks like we have 2 untimely filed amendments, and I'm assuming you're going to run both of these. Mr. Chairman, you're just going to run one.
Yes, sir. I believe it says drafting code 018123.
Hold on 1 second for us. Okay, I think we have everything in order here now. So we do have an untimely filed amendment by Chairman Sapicki, and so without objection, we will move to consider. Without objection, so moved. You are recognized on amendment drafting code 018123. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir, and it does make the bill if it wants to be added on.
All right, let's go ahead and get that put on. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none. We're now voting on amendment 018123 to House Bill 2661. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended, which brings us to amendment number 2, which is also untimely filed by Chair Lady Hazelwood. We do have, again, an untimely filed amendment, so we will, without objection, we will move to consider. Any objection? Seeing none, we are back on amendment number 2. Chair Lady Hazelwood, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment just fixes a Hamilton County situation, and all it does is delete the language "to induce" in subdivision B, subsection 2 of section 5, and substituting instead the language "to persuade." So we're swapping "to induce" for "to persuade" in this amendment. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for approval.
All right, let's make sure we do have that drafting code. I have 018205. Is that correct, Chair Lady?
That's correct.
All right, we already
018205.
great. We already have a motion to second. You've heard the description. Any discussion? Leader Camper.
Thank you, Madam, Mr. Chairman and Madam Chair. When we look at this overall bill, after adding your amendment, we will get an opportunity to understand the difference between this induce and persuade and what we're persuading to do.
Chair Lady
Can we have a
Hazelwood.
conversation around that. You want
If
to
you
just
like,
get it?
certainly.
I'm saying you want us to wait till you get it on, or you want to talk about it now?
Whatever,
Well,
to the
could
will
you-
of the committee.
Could you explain then what we're,
It's simply language that, according to legal, would allow Hamilton County to continue with a pharmacy that they have for their employees. So this language was needed to allow to do that.
okay, thank you.
Further discussion. Again, we're on amendment 018205. Further discussion. Seeing none, we're now voting on amendment 018205 to House Bill 2661. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. The ayes have it. Back on the bill as amended. Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me give you a brief description of what we're doing with this bill. This bill requires PBMs to pay pharmacies the actual cost the pharmacy paid to acquire the drug or the device. It provides for an appeals process for pharmacies to appeal the reimbursement paid by a PBM if the pharmacy believes the PBM did not pay the actual cost of the drug or the device. It does require a PBM to pay a dispensing fee not less than the amount paid by Tenncare for low-volume pharmacies. It requires PBMs to allow all patients, participants, and beneficiaries of a benefit plan to utilize any pharmacy within the state that accepts the terms and conditions established for at least one of the networks of pharmacies within the state. And then there is an implementation correction here. It's that now it will be the proposed legislation takes effect upon becoming law for the purposes of promulgating rules and by January 1st of 2023 for all their purposes and applies to policies, plans, contracts, and agreements that are entered into, amended, or renewed to take effect on or after such date to make sure everybody has enough time, ample time to study this and ramp it up when it comes ready to go. Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Chairman Sapicki. Members, you've heard the description. Any discussion? Leader Camp.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you see that this bill could help consumers in terms of cost, reduction, stability after we pass this bill?
Chairman Sapicki.
I think ideally what it'll do is create more opportunities for the patients to choose which pharmacy that they want to use, that they're most familiar with, and it'll make sure that those pharmacies that may be out of a network are going to be reimbursed for their actual costs, so those pharmacies can stay in business in those local communities to provide those services for their members.
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
Yes, ma'am.
Further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2661, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2661 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Thank you. Brings us to item number 6. Item number 6 on our calendar is House Bill 2346 by Chairman Boyd. Did you have a motion and a second? You're recognized for a brief description, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee, House Bill 2346 would require utilities in the state of Tennessee, that is natural gas providers, water and wastewater providers, and electrical utilities, to develop and implement a cybersecurity plan. They would report to their regulatory folks that they report to. So for the public, that would be through the comptroller, and for the private, that would be to TPUC. They would generate a report and they would send it to the General Assembly and to Homeland Security once a year. I'll take any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much, Chairman Boyd. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2346. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2346, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2346 moves to full finance. Brings us to item number 7, also by Chairman Boyd. It's House Bill 2382. You have a motion to second. You're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2382 is a companion bill to the TCRS veteran retirement bill that I carried on the House floor the other night. This would simply create a sub-account within the TCRS to hold the funds that are allocated for this. I'll take any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much, members. You've heard the description of House Bill 2382. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2382, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2382 moves to full finance. All right. That brings us to item number 96. Item number 96, and I'll give everyone just a moment to turn there. Item number 96 is going to be House Bill 2500, again by Chairman Boyd. We have a motion and a second. Give us just a second, Chairman. Let's make sure we get this in the proper posture. All right, the amendment has already been drafted, so we are in the correct posture. So you have a motion second. You are recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2500 would transfer the Board of Licensing Healthcare Facilities from the Department of Health over to HSDA, and that would be renamed the Health Facilities Commission. I'll take any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much, Chairman Boyd. And let me just make sure to be clear. The amendment that was drafted earlier was 017022, and that was drafted prior. Yeah, it was adopted. All right. Any discussion on House Bill 2500? Seeing none, we are now voting on House Bill 2500, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2500 moves on to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item number 11. Item number 11 is going to be House Bill 2040 by Chairman Curcio. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. This is a kind of full circle for me. I carried a bill similar to this my freshman year. It didn't go anywhere because I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I got the bill back here my senior year. So this creates monitoring standards for companies that want to engage in criminal monitoring in Tennessee. Creates contract requirements, insurance requirements, responsibilities, employment qualifications, training requirements, record-keeping requirements, and conflict of interest prohibitions. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Chairman Curcio. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2040. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2040, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2040 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
All right, that brings us also to item number 97 by Chairman Curcio. And Chairman, give us just a second to get there. Members, again, that's item number 97. That's going to be House Bill 2367 by Chairman Curcio. You have a
Do you have an amendment?
motion and a second, and there is an amendment. It was timely filed. It's drafting code. Let's just make sure these match up with what you have, sir. Drafting code 018003. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? We have a motion and a second. You're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee. Members, what this bill does is it requires the Tennessee Sheriff's Association to establish a criminal proceedings notification system as an extension of the current automated victim information notification system, with requirements for such a system the same as the original bill that I brought earlier. It's a pilot program now, so it would go from July 1, 2022 through June 20th, 2025. And if I may just briefly take a moment of privilege, it's National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and their theme is rights, access, and equity for all victims. And I believe this bill does that. And I want to thank Chair Lady Hazelwood, who has worked tirelessly on a similar effort known as Marcy's Law. But I think this doesn't get us all the way there, but it gets us darn close. And I just appreciate the committee's indulgence and for the funding, the discussion that took place. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, you've heard the description on the amendment. Any discussion? Chair Lady Hazelwood.
I just want to thank Chairman Curcio for bringing this bill. As he mentioned, this does at least part of what Marcy's Law would require, and I think it moves us along the path to get that constitutional amendment at some point in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Further discussion on the amendment. Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not requiring people to do it. It's providing an avenue for them to be on the list if they want the notification, and not requiring them to actually have to receive these notifications.
Chairman Curcio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it requires the Tennessee Sheriff's Association to move forward. Does not require anyone to sign up. But if you wanted to sign up, you have 24-hour access to notifications, whether that be telephonic, text message, there's a call center, that sort of thing. So,
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Chairman. My question was answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion. Again, we're on the amendment, drafting code 018003. Seeing none, we're now voting on the amendment to House Bill 2367. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended. Chairman Curcio.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment made the bill.
All right. Thank you very much. Members, you've heard the description and the discussion. Any further? Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2367, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2367 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
All right. That brings us to item number 16 on our calendar. Chairman Doggett. Is he in? There he is. Couldn't see you. All right, members, we're on House Bill 2572 by Chairman Doggett. You have a motion and a second. There was an amendment, drafting code 017106. That has already been drafted, so you are in the correct posture and you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. What we are doing is establishing a task force that will be attached to the Department of Treasury to study the retirement benefits for law enforcement officers.
Okay, members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2572. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2572, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2572 moves on to full finance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just to be clear, that drafting code 017106, that has already been adopted. I may have misspoken and said drafted, but that has been adopted, sir. All right, item number 21 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 1874 by Chairman Halsey. You have a motion to second, and we have already adopted Amendment 011904, so you are in the correct posture and current posture, and you are recognized, sir, for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. This bill removes the sales tax and use tax on rare coins, paper money, and gold bullion. I started running this bill when my kids were in elementary school, and I'm finally here, and I thank you for that privilege.
Oh, you beat me to the punch, Chairman. All right, members, you've heard the description. Any discussion on House Bill 1874? Chair Lady Hazelwood.
I'm just waiting for the hallelujah chorus.
It will be here.
All right, thank you. Further discussion on House Bill 1874, and I will say this, Chairman, you have worked very hard on this. I think I've been here 7 years, and I think you precluded me on working on this bill, so congratulations on your hard work. So, members, further discussion on House Bill 1874. Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1874, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1874 moves to full finance.
Thank you, committee and chairman.
Thank you. Item number 22 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 2711 by Chairman Howell. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized for a brief description, sir.
My timing was pretty good on that one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill came out of the Refugee Study Committee, which was appointed by the two speakers. We met several times during the summer. And in response to those meetings, this legislation creates a new category of child care agency called the non-traditional child care agency, which would be specific in addressing those agencies, such as the one involved in the issues in Chattanooga during the summer, involving the UACs, or the unaccompanied alien children that were housed in a facility, a dormitory type facility. What this bill would seek to do is to create a NCCA, a non-traditional child care agency, which would be the dormitory style facilities that we haven't had in the past. These children that were in that facility in Chattanooga were not subject to the Interstate Compact on juveniles or the Interstate Compact on placement of children. They're not subject to those compacts because they are in the custody of the federal government. And while Tennessee has no standing with regard to immigration, the federal law and state law agrees that we do have standing with regard to the welfare and safety of children within our borders, and that is not in dispute. Therefore, this bill seeks to address the safety concerns of those children and the concerns that DCS and the committee had and still have concerning these children. DCS is responsible for licensing these agencies, the RCCAs as well as the NCCA agencies. And this would create, this bill would contain reporting requirements to ensure that DCS knows who is being brought into the state. It would create a database to help ensure safeguards against child abuse by establishing a known record of children served. It limits the number of children that can be housed in a facility, and it creates a cause of action against an NCCA for a child who may have been subject to abuse at a facility such as what happened in Chattanooga. We believe this is reasonable safeguards to help protect our children who find themselves in situations like this in the future, and I would urge your support.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Howell. Members, you've heard the description. Any discussion? Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you mentioned establishing a database of the children that will be in this facility. Does your bill talk about what happens with this database, who have access to this database, how the children's names will be protected? Can you address that concern?
Chairman Howell.
Yes, Leader. I think we addressed this once before when you asked that question. This is proprietary information only available to DCS because these are minor children. They are already protected under current law.
Leader Camper.
Thank you. I just wanted to get that back on the record. Thank you so much.
Further discussion. Again, we're on House Bill 2711. Further discussion? Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2711, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2711 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Committee.
Chairman. Right, that brings us to item number 28. Item number 28 is going to be House Bill 2608 by Chairman Vaughn. You have a motion and a second. You are recognized, sir, for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, I'd like to find out who the building's workman's comp insurer is. Wow. This is the Tennessee Broadband Investment Maximization Act. We've also got an amendment that goes with the bill. It's 013742. And then we're asking also to add the amendment 017567.
Chairman, give me just a second. Let's make sure we get this thing in the proper posture.
Yes, sir.
All right, Chairman, Amendment 013742 has already been adopted in the House Commerce Committee.
Correct.
So that one is already traveling, and there is another amendment. It looks like I have drafting code 017567.
We are indeed on the same page, Chairman.
Okay. That particular one is by Chair Lady Hazelwood. Do you want to describe your bill and then we'll get the amendment on, or do you want to get the amendment on, then you describe? Do you have a preference?
I'm at your pleasure.
All right,
Mr.
let's get
Chairman.
the amendment on then. We're going to go to drafting code. We're going to recognize Chair Lady Hazelwood for Amendment 017567. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized, Chair Lady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment just makes it clear that this tax relief does not apply to retail sale of personal consumer electronics, such as smartphones, computers, tablets, and modems and Wi-Fi routers.
All right, thank you very much for this description. Members, any discussion on the amendment? Let's go back to Chair Lady Hazelwood.
Sorry, and there's a part two of the amendment, which reimburses cities, counties, and municipalities for loss of revenue that would result from the tax exemption provided in this act. So we're making locals whole.
Thank you for including that. That's very important. So thank you very much. Members, you've heard the description of the amendment 017567. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on the amendment to House Bill 2608. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill 2608 as amended. Now, Chairman Vaughn, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks. This bill removes sales and use tax from materials provided whenever our broadband expansion contractors are building out our system across the state. This keeps them from having to take part of the grant money that we give them and return it to us in the form of sales tax. So this takes care of that math.
Thank you very much for this description. Members, any discussion on House Bill 2608? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2608, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2608 moves on to full finance. Brings us to item number 29. Item number 29 on our calendars, House Bill 1987 by Chairman Vaughn. You have a motion to second. You're recognized, sir, for a brief description.
Thank you, sir. This bill is still not the Magna Carta, but it is one that's important to me. It adds transparency to utility billing for whenever fees are given or charged to builders or developers for capital expansion systems. We have to be able to know what they're paying for and how those costs compare to other users. This will bring that about.
All right. Thank you very much. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1987. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none. We're now voting on House Bill 1987, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1987 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 34 by Chairman White. That's going to be House Bill 2703. You have a motion and a second. You are recognized, sir, for a brief description.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. This particular bill is one that I carried on behalf of a fellow senator.
It basically just produces a printable teacher's licensure. When a teacher finishes their degree and gets their certificate of licensure from the State Board of Education, it lets them get from the state or receive from the state a certificate that they can frame and put up on their wall and show the world that they are qualified. And so it did produce a small fiscal note, which is why we're here. And with that, that is the explanation.
All right, thank you, Chairman White, for the description. Members, any discussion on House Bill 2703? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2703. Moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2703 moves to full finance. That brings us, we're going to skip over to item number 108, also by Chairman White. We'll give everyone just a second to get there. That's going to be House Bill 2094, again by Chairman White. Do we have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized for a brief description on House Bill 2094.
Thank you again, Chairman and Committee. This is a bill I received from THEC, or Tennessee Higher Education Commission. It is strictly a cleanup bill of the code that they bring to us each year. Everything in this bill is a technical correction to properly align the existing code across Tennessee's financial aid programs. The bill deals with the administration of the state's financial program, which also created a small fiscal note, and that is the explanation of this bill.
All right, thank you very much, Chairman White. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2094. Any discussion? Hearing Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the bill. Question on the eligibility. Does it affect any of the eligibility requirements in some of these technical changes and corrections?
Chairman White.
No, ma'am, it's strictly a cleanup bill of the code, dealing
Okay.
with things that are in the code that no longer really apply. They're just to clean up the language of the code of financial aid. But no, it doesn't deal with eligibility.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion. Again, we're on House Bill 2094. Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2094, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2094 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Committee.
Thank you. All right, members, that brings us back to item number 36 on our calendar. Item number 36 is going to be House Bill 2000 by Representative Cochran. You have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized for a brief description on House Bill 2000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this bill does is I'll try to give you just a very quick description. When a teacher is in a year of new standards adoptions, she cannot use her own growth score. She has to use the school's. And so if she's a level 5 or a high achieving teacher in a school that may be low performing, this allows that not to hurt her growth score, right? So she won't have to be forced to take the school's growth score. She can take she can use her evaluation scores, and doesn't punish good teachers to go for going to schools that may be struggling.
All right, members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2000. Any discussion? Leader Camper.
Yeah, thank you. I guess, could you say that again? So if I'm a level 5 teacher.
Yeah, and thank you, Leader Camper. I probably did a poor job of describing. I was struggling this morning as well.
That's okay.
So currently, if you are really any teacher, but let's just take a level 4 or level 5 teacher, and let's say you teach 7th grade science. On that particular year, every so often they redo the standards, and on the year that they redo the standards, when your students take the TCAP test, you can't use those results currently because they're redoing the standards, and so that makes it where you cannot use your students' test results in science because they're redoing the standards that year. On those particular years, a teacher, for her growth score, she has to take the school's growth score. Now, a lot of times that's probably fine. You may be in a high achieving school and that doesn't hurt you. But if you're in a low achieving school, if you're in a school that maybe has like a level 1 growth score, you have a really good teacher who's forced to take the growth score of a school that might be struggling, and it affects her overall rating negatively. What this bill allows is for her to use her evaluation scores. If that ends up resulting in her having a higher rating than the school's growth score. So we don't want to punish a good teacher just if the overall school was struggling. This allows her to take her evaluation scores on that particular year of new standards adoptions.
Leader Camper.
So with the overall growth score that the school has, that teachers, the growth of her students within her class is included in the overall school's growth scores, correct? So
Well, Leader Camper, they would not be, because that would be a year of new standards adoption for that particular subject matter. So this does not affect thousands of teachers, but it certainly can affect, a large number if, again, if they're in that year of new standards adoption. So, to answer your question specifically, no, her student scores would not be included in that, because that would have been a year of new standards adoption. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Chair Lady Hazelwood.
And I just want to be sure that I heard something correctly, because I think one of the positive things about this bill is it would encourage teachers, or at least not discourage teachers, from moving from a high performing to a lower performing school where they could really make a more positive impact.
That is absolutely correct, and that's a real concern currently. If you move to that struggling school, if you're a very effective teacher and you move to that struggling school in a year of new standards adoption, it could hurt your overall teacher rating. So this would hopefully prevent that. You're correct.
Chair Lady Hazelwood. Thank you very much. Further discussion. Again, we are on House Bill 2000. Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2000, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2000 moves to full finance. All right, that brings us to item number 37. Item number 37 on our calendar is House Bill 2043 by Representative Cochran. You have a motion and a second, and it looks like we have an untimely filed amendment. So without objection, we will have to move to consider. Without objection, so moved. We are now on the amendment drafting code 018178. Representative Cochran, is that correct?
That is correct, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
do we have a motion second on the amendment? We have a motion second. You're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Chairman. And this, what the amendment does is it takes out the portion on kratom. This will make the bill where it only focuses on a drug called tianeptine, which was the initial focus of the legislation. Kratom got attached in the subcommittee process, but this makes it where basically tianeptine, which is a very dangerous drug, where you can't just go into a gas station and buy it.
All right, thank you very much, members. You've heard the description of the amendment. Any discussion on amendment drafting code 018178? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on the amendment to House Bill 2043. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended. You are recognized, Representative Cochran.
Mr. Chairman, I'll let my previous explanation stand, but I will yield any questions.
All right, the amendment did make the bill. So, members, any discussion on House Bill 2043? Question's been called. Objection called on the question. Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2043, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2043 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
Thank you. All right, members, we're going to jump over. Let's hold on one second. All right, members, we're going to jump over to item 76. Where patiently waiting has been Leader Lambert. We're on item number 74. It's going to be House Bill 26. item number 76, House Bill 1832 by Leader Lambert. You have a motion second. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is what feels like semi-annual judicial redistricting bill.
All right, members, you've heard the description. Any discussion on House Bill 1832? Representative Hogg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Leader Lambert, thank you for semi-annually bringing this bill back. I've had this bill sponsored before, and we've done this several times. I think that as we look to go into the first year of of judicial elections, DA elections, PD elections, we've talked about redistricting for a long time. And this might be one of the better opportunities we have to look into this. Not saying this can be done through this mechanism right there, but in the 23 year, when we come back legislatively, this may be an opportunity for us to have a real conversation and look at some real data, where the needs are across the state. How do we better align those courts and what we can do? So I want to thank you again for bringing this legislation. Thank you for working on this and serving on some of these committees throughout the years as well. Leader Lambert, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. And as the gentleman who's soon to be the dean of our caucus, you've been through several of these over the last couple of decades, and I've been through about 3 different task forces. And it really boils down to, look, our lines were drawn politically by legislatures long before us, and many of these judicial districts don't serve their constituents very well at all. We have districts that are geographically way too small. We have others that, quite frankly, are too large. It needs to be looked at, and it hopefully will be looked at. And I share your resolve in getting this done quickly, because what happens is every time we are either told, well, these judges, DAs, and public defenders just got elected, so you don't want to do judicial redistricting for those districts then. They just got elected. Or you get halfway through and they say, well, we've got plenty of time, before their reelection is up, so it's probably not best to do it now. Or, for goodness sake, you don't want to do it right at the end, right before an election, because, that would change everything right before an election. So I'm with you. It's time to just do this. We go through redistricting every 10 years, and it makes sense, and it serves the people of Tennessee well. It's time to look at these districts and make sure that they actually match well. There are some that literally will stretch all the way from Kentucky to our southern border, and it just doesn't make any sense. So thank you for your comments, and the speakers will appoint this task force. They can do so as early as next year, if they so please.
All right. Thank you very much. Further discussion. Again, we're on House Bill 1832. Leader Camper.
Thank you, Leader. This the task force is going to take a look at it, study it, and provide a recommendation back, a proposal. Is that what this is doing? It's just, they're not making any final decisions. They're going to propose something back to the body. Can you talk to that?
Leader Lambert.
Yes, it's just a 3-page bill. It's very simple. All 3 pages do exactly as you've described.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Further discussion. Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1832, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1832 moves to full finance. All right, that brings us to item number 80. Item number 80, we're going to switch gears and go to House Bill 2118, again by Leader Lambert. You have a motion and a second, and it looks like, sir, you have a drafting code and amendment drafting code 017814 that rewrites the bill. Let's go ahead and get that put on, if that's okay. You have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on drafting code 017814 to House Bill 2118. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Back on the bill as amended, and Leader Lambert, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And literally, this just addresses an issue that we inadvertently created last year. I think there's a legal argument as to whether or not this issue even exists, but we never intended for the matrix that we passed dealing with criminal court probation violations to give somebody 5 chances to violate probation in the span of a year, an 11-month and 29-day misdemeanor probation. There are lawyers that have begun to argue in court that we did intend that. I can assure you none of us did. I've spoken to all the chairmen and sponsors of the bills and everyone else, and what we intended last year was to give folks multiple chances if they're on years of probation and they have minor discrepancies in their probation violation journey or their probation journey and they violated in some way. So this makes it crystal clear. Nothing we have passed either last year or this year applies that matrix to misdemeanor sentences. Those are short-term sentences. A judge can do whatever they want to if someone violates that probation. And it clarifies that a violation of a no contact order is a violation of probation. It's not a technical violation. And there was some question as to that. There was a bill that we passed about a week or so ago, the reason for the new amendment by Representative Russell. Because that bill passed first, this bill had to be amended to be able to work well with his. That's the three things it does, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much, Leader Lamberth. Members, you've heard the description. Any discussion again on House Bill 2118? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2118, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2118 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
I believe that's it for me. I was able to catch up on 435 emails a second ago, though. So,
well, you're welcome to hang out. All right, members, that brings us to item number 100. Item number 100. Item number 100 is going to be House Bill 2030 by Chairman Kiesling. You have a motion and a second, sir. You're recognized for a description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think, of course, we got an amendment. Did the committee adopt that amendment?
Yes, sir.
Chairman?
It is. It is traveling.
So it's full speed ahead.
Full speed ahead.
Okay. With that, the currently members, the TWRA receives 0.53 of fuel assessment off the pumps located at our Tennessee marinas. This amendment will simply change that percentage to 0.88. And the reason for that, in the past 5 years, we've had tremendous growth along our waterways here in the state. With growth, of course, comes with increased needs for parking expansions, parking lot expansions, and ingress, egress, and other facilities. So with that difference between the two, that's what this would be doing, is to assist in that, Mr. Chairman. For that, I'll entertain any questions.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Kiesling. Members, you've heard the description. Any discussion on House Bill 2030? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2030, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2030 moves to full finance.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, that brings us to item number 39. Item number 39 on your calendar is going to be House Bill 2544 by Representative Alexander. You have a motion and a second. You are recognized for a brief description on House Bill 2544.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee. Not a long description, Chairman, just a brief one, right?
I'd appreciate it.
This original law was passed in 1989 and was last updated in 1992. And the type of equipment that we detect breast cancer has changed immensely in those years. And this is just to update the law and allow women who have dense breasts to get better treatment options.
All right. Thank you very much, Representative Alexander, for this description. Members, any discussion on House Bill 2544? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2544, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2544 moves to full finance. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item number 42. Item number 42 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 2331 by Representative Bricken. Do we have a motion to second? We have a motion second. Sir, you are recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the enhanced voting machine bill that will require verifiable paper audit trail machines in all our counties over the next 2 years.
All right. Thank you, Representative Bricken. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2331. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2331, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2331 moves to full finance. All right, members, we're going to jump to 101. So item number 101. This is going to be House Bill 2226 by Chairman Powers. You have a motion, a second, and we do have an untimely filed amendment. So without objection, we will move to consider. Without objection, so moved. We are on the amendment drafting code 018158. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
All right, we have a motion, a second on the amendment. We have a motion, a second. You're recognized on the amendment.
All right, thank you. And yeah, this is an amendment that was put on in the Senate, and it actually, the increase went from $1,625 we were getting per semester up to $2,000 per semester for our middle college students.
All right, thank you very much, members. You've heard the description of the amendment 018158. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on the amendment to House Bill 2226. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended. And you are recognized on the bill as amended, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. The middle college program is one that's operated as a 2-year post-secondary institution and partners with LEA. It permits students in the fall of their junior year to enter into a 2-year institution, and they can graduate from that institution and high school at the same time. And it's a great program, especially with people that want to go and have a post-secondary degree. And this $2,000 will pay most of the tuition. They'll still have to come up with books and fees after that to do this. But it's been a great program. And that, Mr. Chairman, I renew my motion.
All right, thank you very much, Chairman Powers. Members, you have heard the description of House Bill 2226. All right, you've heard the description of the bill. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2226. We are now voting on House Bill 2226, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2226 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 45. Item number 45 is going to be House Bill 1646 by Representative Hall. You have a motion and a second, and it looks like there's an untimely filed an amendment that has been drafted or that has been filed. So we will have to, without objection, we have to move to consider. Without objection, so moved. We're on the amendment, drafting code 07183. Is that correct, Representative Hall?
Yes, sir. That is correct, sir.
All right, we have a motion second on the amendment. We have a motion second, and you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, that actually rewrites the bill. Let's go ahead and get that put on if you want to. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on drafting code 017183 to House Bill 1646. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended, and now you're recognized. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment was adopted and approved by the Senate. It lessens the effect. Of course, House Bill 1646 is better known as Joker's Law regarding the assault on law enforcement canines. This lessens the effect of the initial bill that I had presented earlier. This makes it a Class D felony for those that inflict bodily harm on a law enforcement canine, and a Class B felony for those that results in death. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield to any questions.
All right. Thank you, Representative Hall. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1646. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1646, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1646 moves to full finance. All right. That brings us to item number 46. Item number 46 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 1833 by Representative Hall. And an amendment has already been adopted, and that amendment was 014220. So we are in the proper posture, and you're recognized, sir, for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1833 is regarding the disposal of car tires in unauthorized areas. This has become somewhat of an epidemic and is an underground profession for those that discard car tires. Basically, 7 or less tires would be a misdemeanor. 8 or more would be a felony, a Class C felony. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield to any questions, sir.
All right. Thank you, Representative Hall. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1833. Any discussion? Hearing Leader Camper.
Thank you. Are there any fines associated with this as well?
Yes, ma'am, there is.
Okay.
Leader Camper.
Could you discuss those fines?
Representative Hall.
$2,500 for the misdemeanor. And
Okay.
and none for the felony, but a $2,500 for the misdemeanor.
For a misdemeanor.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1833, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1833 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
All right, that brings us to item number 54. Item number 54 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 1274 by Representative Powell. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized for a brief description on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do actually have an amendment that was brought to me by Department of Labor and Workforce Development that I submitted to the committee.
All right, I have, and let's make sure we have this drafting code correct, 016612. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, we have a motion to second on the amendment. You're recognized on the amendment for a description.
Sure. So this amendment was brought to me by the Department of Labor and Workforce Development just to make sure we're in compliance with the U.S. Department of Labor. It includes a reference to Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act.
All right, thank you, Representative Powell. Members, you've heard the description of the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on Amendment 016612 onto House Bill 1274. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended, and you are recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this creates a work share program in the state of Tennessee. Essentially allows employers, if they wanted to, rather than lay off employees, to recut their hours unilaterally, and worked closely on this legislation with the Department of with the Chamber of Commerce. This was something that was a featured discussion when the speaker was the chair, and we hosted the legislative conference last year. And so this would be another state that would be added to this, and anything would also have to be approved by the Department of Labor and Workforce Development.
All right, thank you very much. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1274. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1274, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1274 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 55. And showing up right on time is going to be Representative Miller for House Bill 2723. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized, sir, for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think we have an amendment that makes
It is traveling, so you are in the proper posture, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 2723. What this legislation does, it's the officers and employees of the various agency boards and departments of state government are entitled to 5 days of paid leave in the event that a minor child contracts COVID-19 or a child's school or daycare facility is forced to close due to COVID-19. And the parent or officer or employee must stay home with the child to provide for the child's care. The paid leave to which an officer or an employee is entitled under this section does not count against the officer or the employee's accumulated sick or annual leave. And let me say, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, that we certainly hope that once in a lifetime that this will not have to even occur, and we pray that it doesn't have to happen again based on COVID-19. But with that, Mr. Chairman, stand for any questions.
All right, thank you, Representative Miller. Any discussion on House Bill 2723? Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, do you think most state employees are able to use sick leave or a sick leave bank for this very purpose?
Representative Miller.
This is the purpose of the bill itself, to hope that, again, if this occur, where schools and kindergartens would have to close because of COVID-19, that those state employees that would have to stay home with their child or children, this would not work against their sick leave.
Chairman Todd.
That didn't actually answer my question. Currently, are they able to use sick leave for this purpose?
Representative Miller.
For this purpose, no. They're
Chairman
not.
Todd.
So they cannot use sick leave to stay home with a sick child?
Not based on if there's a COVID-19 issue. So the answer to your question, no, they're not currently able to do this.
Chairman Todd.
That sounds very odd to me. And I used to, in another life, be a state employee, and you could use sick leave for a lot of things. And if you ran out, if you belonged to the sick leave bank, it was almost an endless supply. So I'm questioning the accuracy of that answer, that they could not, under current HR policy, stay home with pay under sick leave to care for a sick child, no matter what the sickness was.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if anyone from the department is here, but if in fact he needs a better answer to that, hopefully there may be someone from the department that can answer that question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, without objection, we do have someone that is on the list to speak. So without objection, we will go out of session. Without objection, we're out of session. Please identify yourself for the record, please.
There we go. Holt Witt, DOHR. You're correct. There are a lot of different situations in which you can use sick leave. I don't know if there's any specific COVID-related sick leave use available, but certainly having to stay at home for a sick child is something that has been permissible in the past. So,
Chairman Todd.
So it's a little hard to hear. So it has been permissible in the past to utilize sick leave for staying home with a sick child.
that's my understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair Lady Hazelwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for HR. Can you currently use sick leave if your child's daycare or school is closed? Is that covered currently?
Mr. Witt.
I'm not sure of that specific circumstance. I would have to get back with you.
That seems to be a lot of what this bill is addressing. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments for our guest? Seeing none, without objection, we'll go back into session. Back in session. Further discussion. Again, we're on House Bill 2723. Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2723, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2723 moves to full finance. All right, that brings us to item number 60. Item number 60 is going to be by Representative Sparks. There he is. House Bill 1738. You have a motion to second. Sir, you're recognized for a brief description.
This is what the committee had approved last year. It just extends the sales tax exemption on gun safes and gun safety devices for another year. Appreciate your consideration.
All right. Thank you, Representative Sparks. Members, you have heard the description. Any discussion on House Bill 1738? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1738, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1738 moves to full finance.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Brings us to item number 66. Item number 66 on our calendar is House Bill 1899 by Representative Weaver. You have a motion to second. You are recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. This bill was the genesis for this bill is during COVID, we had such an emergency with recruiting and retaining and getting teachers in our local district. This gives our locals some flexibility. So what the bill as amended will do, it is authorizes a teacher holding a second or third temporary teaching permit to apply to the Department of Education for a practitioner's license to continue teaching the course or subject area taught pursuant to the teacher's temporary permit under certain conditions. The bill lists those conditions, and it also requires the SBE to establish requirements for a limited licensure. So this won't go on in perpetuity. It has a stopping point, but again, this is a great way to grandfather in our teachers who showed up to the plate because they, number one, want to be in the classroom, and this enables them to stay in the classroom because they want to be there and to move forward and get their practitioner's license. So it's a great bill for your district, and it will give our locals another tool in the toolbox. And with that explanation, I would consider your sending me on.
All right. Thank you, Representative Weaver. You've heard the description, members. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none. We are now voting on House Bill 1899, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1899 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members.
And members of the committee, we're going to try to grab everybody in the audience that's not on the committee. So we're going to try to make sure we grab everyone. So bear with us. All right, members, we are on item 102. Item 102, which is House Bill 2763 by Representative Hurt. You have a motion and a second. You are recognized, sir, on a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to double check. We have an amendment. Is it already traveling with the bill?
It is.
Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir. This bill is amended to delete sections 11 and 12 from TCA 55-25-107. This code sets forth who the Department of Safety and Department of Revenue may share information with. The problem we're trying to solve here is, what we're trying to do here is reduce the information that the state of Tennessee is releasing, which is allowing telemarketers to create their database, which results in calls to our fellow Tennesseans. And hopefully this is a first step of reducing those calls. And with that, I'll take any questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Representative Hurt. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 2763. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2763 being sent on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2763 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee.
Thank you. Item 105 is going to be House Bill 2677 by Representative Leatherwood. You have a motion to second. Sir, you're recognized for a brief description.
And like the previous bill, there is an amendment that makes the bill.
It is traveling.
Thank you. This bill, as amended, creates an offense for an employer to influence or attempt to influence by means of coercion a public servant employee. And I appreciate y'all's support.
All right. Thank you very much, members. Again, you've heard the description for House Bill 2677. And let me just be clear on something. I know sometimes we say, oh, that amendment is traveling. Let me just make clear what that actually means. That means that amendment has already been put on in a prior committee. And so it's actually attached to the bill already. So that's what that actually means. So
Okay.
With that said, House Bill 2677, any discussion? Question's been called. Objection called on the question. Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2677, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill 2677 moves to full finance.
Thank you.
All right, members, we're going to go to item number 70. All right, item number 70 is going to be House Bill 1661. You've got a motion and a second. You're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee. What this bill does is it would create a new offense of aggravated reckless driving while keeping the existing reckless driving statute in place.
All right, thank you very much, Representative Gillespie. Members, you've heard the description. Any discussion? Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you tell us what constitutes the aggravated?
Representative Gillespie.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Leader, for the question. So the aggravated offense would be intentionally or knowingly impedes traffic upon a public street, highway, alley, parking lot or driveway, or on the premise of a shopping center, trailer park, apartment house complex, or any other premise accessible to a motor vehicle that are generally or frequently frequented by the public at large. And that would be a Class A misdemeanor. And so it would be, that's the definition and left up to the discretion of the prosecutor whether or not to go after that reckless driving offense or the new aggravated reckless driving offense.
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor.
Thank you. Further description on House Bill 1661. Seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1661, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1661 moves to full finance.
Thank you all.
All right, that brings All right, members, we are now on item 68. That's going to be House Bill 2625 by Chairman Baum. Do we have a motion to second? We have a motion and a second, and it looks like we have an untimely filed amendment. So without objection, we will move to consider. Without objection, so moved. We are on amendment number 018191. Is that correct, Chairman?
Yes, Chairman Hicks.
Do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? Do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? We have a motion and a second on the amendment. You are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks. Tennessee, in its Tenncare program, has about 15 to 20,000 recipients who are eligible for both Tenncare and Medicare. And these individuals that I'm referring to have selected a DSNP plan, which stands for Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, with one of 6 carriers. In order for them to receive this plan, federal law requires Tenncare to contract with those carriers. Tenncare currently has plans to contract with 3 of those carriers. They are MCOs. It's not clear whether Tenncare is going to contract with the remaining 3 carriers that are not MCOs. This bill would require Tenncare to study the impact of not contracting with those remaining carriers and report back to the General Assembly, and in the meantime, take no action that would result in these Tenncare recipients being removed from their plan.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Baum, and members. You've heard the description of Amendment 018191. Any discussion? Leader Camper.
Thank you. Could you clarify the last point you made about the people in their plan?
Chairman Baum.
Last point.
The bill would prohibit Tenncare from removing these dual eligible Tenncare recipients from being removed from their DSNP plan while Tenncare is studying and reporting back the implications of removing them. They would report back things like how the Tenncare patients would be notified, what the other options available for these particular recipients would be, so that the legislature can have some oversight.
Leader Camper.
And there would be cost benefit analysis and that type of information contained in the report that would be given back, submitted back to the General Assembly.
Chairman Baum.
They may very well include that kind of analysis, but to be clear, the fiscal note on this amendment is insignificant.
Leader Camper.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just trying to get to the point of the bill. Okay.
Chairman.
I got the answer. Yeah.
All right. Further discussion. Again, we're on the amendment 018191. Seeing none, we're now voting on Amendment 018191 to House Bill 2625. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended. Let me make that clear. I think I skipped that part. That was actually putting on Amendment 018191 to House Bill 2625 is what we just voted on. All right. You are recognized, Chairman.
No additional comments. This rewrites the bill.
All right. Any discussion on House Bill 2625? Hearing none and seeing none. We're now voting on House Bill 2625, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2625 moves to full finance. All right. Members, we're going to now move over to item 109. Item 109 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 324 by Representative Baum. You have a motion to second. You recognize, sir, for a brief description.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks. This is the bill that would change the Tennessee grading scale from a 7-point scale to a 10-point scale. You've heard this presented before, and I've outlined some of the benefits. Let me give you a new benefit of doing this. There have been some students who have moved from a surrounding state where and I should add, all of Tennessee's neighbors surrounding or bordering on the state have a 10-point scale. There have been some families that have moved to the state and have found that their child's GPA has fallen when they've moved from a state that has a 10-point grading scale to a 7-point grading scale. For example, if the student had a 92 in Kentucky, that would be an A, but when they moved to Tennessee to transfer to a Tennessee high school, that would become a B on our 7-point scale. This bill would change Tennessee's grading scale to a 10-point scale so that it would align and match with all of our bordering neighbors and virtually every other state in the country.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Baum, for that description. Members, any discussion on House Bill 324? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 324, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 324 moves to full finance. All right, that takes us back to item number 71. Item number 71 is going to be House Bill 536 by Chairman Hawk. You have a motion and a second. And Chairman, give us just a second on the amendment. All right, Chairman, thank you very much for your patience. Again, members, we're on item number 71, House Bill 536. We do have a motion and a second. And it looks like, sir, there's an amendment, drafting code 014332. That has already been adopted, so we are in the proper posture, and you are recognized on House Bill 536.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill will reinstate a portion of vendors' compensation to all of our sales tax collecting points out there. We'll now be able to reduce up to $25 off of their sales tax collections. It equals 1% of the first $2,500 of sales tax remittance that they have. This is a return to policy we had over 20 years ago, and is a small way to say thank you to our businesses out there that are actually collecting the sales taxes for us. I do want to read into and make sure that we all read that the fiscal note says that this proposed legislation will not impact local government sales tax collections, and that these will be considered general fund dollars. So just to read that into the record, Mr. Chairman and members, and certainly hope for a positive vote.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Hawk. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 536. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none. We're now voting on House Bill 536, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 536 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Chairman, members.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item number 73. Item number 73 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 519 by Chair Lady Hazelwood. You have a motion and a second, and it looks like there is an amendment 017570. You have a motion and a second. That actually rewrites the bill, so let's go ahead and get that put on. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on drafting code 017570 onto House Bill 519. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are back on the bill as amended. Chair Lady, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the professional privilege tax bill, and the amendment that we just attached eliminates physicians, both MDs and osteopaths, from the professional privilege tax, and it continues the process that we have in gradually eliminating taxes like we did with the hall tax. And as we've done before with the professional privilege tax by eliminating categories. And that's all that this bill does. And it's just another way that we are putting money back in taxpayers' pockets, and particularly for physicians who have, we have a shortage of them in the state. And we don't want to do anything to discourage them from practicing here. And they've also been through quite a difficult time with COVID and all the other things that have happened as a result. So with that, I would ask for passage of the bill as amended.
All right, thank you very much, Chair Lady. And again, we are on House Bill 519. That was a description. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 519, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 519 moves to full finance. Right, members, we are now on item 74. Item number 74 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 2640 by Chair Lady Hazelwood. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill simply would remove or waive the state portion of the motor vehicle registration for personal vehicles, non-commercial Class A. That would be motorcycles, automobiles, autocycles, and passenger motor vehicles for 1 year only, from July 1, 2022 to June 30 of 2023. So for that year, when you go to buy your new tags, you will not have to pay the state portion of that license renewal fee.
All right. Thank you, Chair Lady, for this description. Members, any discussion on House Bill 2640? Representative Freeman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Electric vehicles pay an additional fee. Will that be waived as well, or is that still going to be paid?
Chair Lady Hazelwood.
We are waiving the base I think it's $23.75.
Thank you.
Representative Freeman.
Thank you.
Chairman Williams.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate what the chair lady said. This is $120 million of excess of $121 million of tax relief to Tennesseans in spite of rising prices across our state and inflationary pressures. I think it's good that we can give our citizens a tax break in this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Williams. Chairman Hawk. Thank you. Further discussion on House Bill 2640? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2640, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2640 moves to full finance. All right, members, that brings us to item number 92. Yeah, we're going to get all of Chair Lady Hazelwood's. It's just a second. All right, we're on item number 92. It's going to be House Bill 2213 by Chair Lady Hazelwood. Do we have a motion to second? We have a motion to second. An amendment drafting code 016239 has already been adopted, so the bill is in the proper posture. So you are recognized on House Bill 2213, Chair Lady Hazelwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill just simply creates a healthcare task force to review the reimbursement of health professionals that are employed by agencies that perform healthcare services under state contract. The bill describes how the task force, the makeup of the task force, who will appoint those, and it requires the task force to submit interim progress report to the speakers and to both chairs of the health committees by July 1 of 2023, and a final report no later than December 31 of 2024. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for passage.
All right. Thank you, Chair Lady Hazelwood. Members, you have heard the description of House Bill 2213. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2213, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2213 moves to full finance. All right, members, that brings us to item number 83. Item number 83 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 959 by Chairman Whitson. Do we have a motion to second? We have a motion to second. Sir, you are recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 959 authorized licensed professional counselors to obtain and maintain a license in other compact states while authorizing Tennessee to continue to regulate their license. This will remove the need for counselors to obtain a separate license in each state in which they wish to practice. This compact is constitutionally authorized, legally binding between states. Currently, states already approving the contract includes Kentucky, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, West Virginia, and Florida. It's pending in Virginia, Missouri, Louisiana, Indiana, and Ohio. With that, I renew my motion.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Whitson. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 959. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 959, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 959 moves to full finance. All right, that brings us, we're going to skip over to item number 94. Item number 94 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 1686 by Chairman Williams. You have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Chairman and members. I also have an amendment, drafting code 018086.
That's what I have. Members, we have a motion on the amendment.
Second.
We have a motion to second. You're recognized on the amendment.
This amendment just modifies the fiscal note to incorporate the expenditure as it relates to 225 enrollees. Happy to answer any questions, members.
Okay. You've heard the description on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now voting on Amendment 018086 to House Bill 1686. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on House Bill 1686 as amended. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman and members. One thing I neglected to say about that amendment was it also changed the effective date. But this bill, as amended, would create the Colonel Thomas G. Bowden Act, which would create a respite care program for the families across Tennessee. I want to thank the members of this committee for its passionate advocacy of this group of people whose families seek respite care for their loved ones because they're serving 365 days a year in service with their family members with Alzheimer's. This would create a program similar to Choices, and 225 families would be a part of this pilot program for the next 3 years. Happy to answer any questions the members might have.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Williams. Members, you've heard the description. Any discussion on? All right. Any discussion on House Bill 1686? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1686, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1686 moves to full finance. All right, that brings us to item 95, House Bill 2274 by Chairman Williams. You have a motion to second. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman and members. This bill is a result of TASER study report regarding rights of ways and personal property rights as it relates to how we do subdivision plats for future residential developments. All this would do would incorporate the Nolan Dolan test, which other states have done, and this is the recommendation of TASER, which is to be adopted this summer. I'm happy to answer any questions the members might have.
All right, thank you, Chairman Williams. Members, you've heard the description. Any discussion? Chairman Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Williams, very good bill, and I'm not sure if the accolades go to you or not, but you tapped me on the shoulder and said that we had a little bit of pizza in the back room. So I would, if that was you, Chairman Williams, thank you very much.
Chairman Williams.
Out of order.
Round of applause.
Further discussion on House Bill 2274. Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 2274, moving on to full finance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 2274 moves to full finance.
Okay, members, we are now on item 85. This is House Bill 335 by Chairman Hicks. Chairman Hicks, got a motion and a second. You are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. House Bill 335 adds leukemia and testicular cancer to the list of cancers to which the presumption applies and is a part of a continued negotiated agreement among the parties involved. And so this just adds leukemia and testicular cancer.
You've heard the explanation. Are there any questions? If not, we're voting to send House Bill 335 to full finance. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Goes to full finance. Next item on our calendar is item number 87, which is House Bill 2027, also by Chairman Hicks. I'm sorry, 1690. That's not what I have. Okay. I'm sorry. The next item is House Bill 1695 by Chairman Hicks. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Hicks, you're recognized.
All right. Thank you, Chairman and members. Members, last year, this General Assembly passed Public Chapter 518, which allowed health benefits for the Tennessee Highway Patrol at 25 years of retirement under the Legacy Plan. This bill goes hand in hand with that legislation that it allows state troopers hired after 2015, which are on the hybrid plan, to receive these same health benefits that I just mentioned. And so therefore, House Bill 1695 allows state troopers that are hired after 2015 and retire after 25 years of service the ability to receive 80% coverage of their health benefit. And I stand to answer any questions.
You've heard the explanation. Are there any questions? Question's been called. We are voting to send House Bill 1695 to full finance. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes, moves to full finance. Item number 88 on our calendar is House Bill 2265, also by Chairman Hicks. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Hicks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. House Bill 2265 comes to us because of a policy change made by our friends at the Tennessee Valley Authority with their Green Power Providers Program. House Bill 2265 restores each homeowner and small business to the same eligibility for the solar power equipment beneficial tax status and recognizes the new requirement of energy storage because of no access to the TVA grid. And pending any questions, I will make a motion to move House Bill 2265 to full finance.
With that explanation, is there any discussion? If not, then we're voting to send House Bill 2265 to full finance. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Moves to full finance. Item number 89 on our calendar is House Bill 2378 by Chairman Hicks. Chairman Hicks, you've got a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. This bill, House Bill 2378, clarifies that staffing services are not subject to sales tax in Tennessee and provides relief to technology support companies and all companies that use technology support in Tennessee by preventing the department from imposing tax on software development, installation, and repair when those services are performed by contract employees acting as a company's agent. With that, I stand to answer any questions.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Are there any questions? If not, then we're voting to send House Bill 2378 to full finance. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Goes to full finance.
All right, members, I think that completes our calendars. Any bills that were not taken up on this particular calendar will be taken off notice without objection. So moved. All right. Do we have any further business coming before this committee? Let's recognize Chairlady Hazelwood for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Full will meet at 2:20 here in House Hearing Room 1.
All right. Thank you very much. That completes our business before the committee. Anything else before the committee? Seeing none, without objection, we stand in recess.
Yes.